Ever notice how the moment you step back, they suddenly start craving your attention? 1 second, you're always there, ready, willing, giving, and they treat you like a backup option. But the instant you put some distance between you, boom, they're practically begging for your presence. Why is that? What's the trick to making them realize just how much they've lost? Here's the harsh reality. It's not about being manipulative or playing mind games. It's about reclaiming your own space, asserting your presence, and letting them feel what life is like without you around. Today, I'm breaking down 7 raw, unapologetic reasons why pulling away makes them come running back. And we're going to dig into some Stoic wisdom to make sense of it all. Buckle up. This is about to shift how you view relationships and, more importantly, how you see yourself. First things first. This isn't just about them. This is about you. You're not creating distance just to get their attention. You're doing it to reclaim your self-worth, your confidence, and your peace of mind. It's about taking charge of your choices and valuing yourself enough to stop waiting for someone else to validate your existence. You're not just stepping back to make them notice. You're stepping back to grow, to evolve, and to finally start giving yourself the respect you've been giving away for free. I know it all too well. Being the one who always texts first, who always tries to fix things, who keeps the relationship alive while they barely lift a finger. It's exhausting. You end up feeling like you're pouring every ounce of yourself into something that barely reciprocates. So here's your wake-up call. Every time you chase after someone who doesn't value you, you're losing a part of yourself. That cycle, it ends right now. By the time we're done here, you won't just understand why giving them space works. You'll know how to do it with intention, leaving you feeling stronger, more resilient, and more powerful than ever. Let's get one thing clear about Stoicism. It's not about acting indifferent or burying your emotions. It's about recognizing that you can't control how someone else feels or responds. You can't make them see your worth if they're too blind to notice it. But you can choose how much of your energy you're willing to spend without getting anything in return. Stick with me, because once you learn how to change the game, nobody who took you for granted will see it coming. Isn't it ironic how people only start valuing you the moment you stop giving them all your energy? It's like, as soon as you stop bending over backward to prove your worth, they suddenly realize just how much they were taking you for granted. That's the strange power of pulling back. It's like flipping a switch they didn't even know existed. But let's get one thing straight. It's not about playing games or withholding affection just to mess with them. It's about shifting the focus back to yourself, taking all that effort you once put into them and investing it in your own growth. And when you do that, something surprising happens. They start noticing the gap you left behind, and it messes with their heads. Suddenly, they're realizing that you're not waiting around for their approval, and it hits them hard. You never needed their validation in the first place. Now, let's dive into why stepping back is such a game changer. Reason number 1, the shock of your growth. You see, people tend to get way too comfortable in relationships, friendships, or even family dynamics because they think they've got you all figured out. You're the reliable one, the one who's always there, always making the effort, always bending to meet their needs. They get used to it, convinced you'll never change. But that's exactly where you turn the tables. Picture this. For months, maybe even years, you've been the one who always reaches out, makes plans, and checks in without fail. Then, one day, you just stop. No more calls, no more texts, no more bending over backward to keep the connection alive. Instead of chasing after them, you're out there chasing your goals. You're hitting the gym, crushing it at work, and surrounding yourself with people who actually value your presence. You're building your own momentum while they're left wondering what the hell just happened. And here's the kicker. They panic. They didn't see it coming. They thought they knew you like the back of their hand, a constant, unchanging fixture in their life. Now they're completely blindsided because you're no longer predictable. Change terrifies people, especially when it comes from someone they've underestimated. Suddenly, they're second-guessing everything. Did I underestimate them? Did I miss something important? That curiosity gnaws at them, and before long, they're fixated, obsessed with figuring out this new, evolved version of you. But here's the twist. You're not leveling up to prove them wrong. You're doing it because you owe it to yourself. The biggest misconception people have is thinking that personal growth is about showing others what they lost. It's not. It's about becoming the best version of yourself for you. If they end up regretting taking you for granted, that's on them, not you. When you start pouring your energy into your own ambitions, goals, and personal growth, something remarkable unfolds. You don't even have to say a thing. Your transformation speaks louder than any words ever could. And here's the twist. People can't help but notice. It's human nature. They start creeping from the shadows, trying to decipher what's changed. They see you flourishing, radiating success, and it suddenly hits them. They let something incredible slip through their fingers. But by then, it's already too late. You're miles ahead, living your best life. Just choose one area of your life, just one, and give it everything you've got. Whether it's pushing yourself in the gym, excelling at work, or immersing yourself in a personal passion, make it your top priority. Not because you're trying to prove a point, but because you deserve it. By the time they realize how much you've transformed, you'll be so caught up in your own evolution that their reactions won't even register. Let's dig into something most people won't admit. The pure magnetic power of self-sufficiency. You wouldn't believe how irresistible it is to be the person who doesn't need anyone else to feel complete. In a world where validation and approval are currency, standing on your own 2 feet makes you an enigma, someone people just can't look away from. The majority are out there begging for someone to affirm their worth. But you? You're thriving on your own terms, and that energy is like a beacon no one can ignore. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean pushing people away or pretending you don't care. It's about understanding your value and not needing anyone else's approval to feel secure. When your confidence, happiness, and success aren't tied to anyone else, you become unbreakable. That kind of strength is rare, and it's captivating. It pulls people in without you even trying. It's not about being loud or boastful. It's that quiet, unyielding confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. You're not out there fishing for compliments or chasing after validation. You're just secure in your own skin. And that's precisely the moment when people start craving your attention. They can't wrap their heads around it. How come you're perfectly fine without them? Why don't you need their approval anymore? Suddenly, they're left questioning everything, unable to figure out how you're thriving without them. That's the moment the game flips. They go from feeling like they had control to being completely thrown off balance. And honestly, that's not your issue anymore. You're too busy building the life you deserve to worry about those who never recognized your worth in the first place. The instant you withdraw the attention they once took for granted, the dynamics shift entirely. Suddenly, you're no longer the one chasing, and they're left with a sense of loss they didn't even realize they'd feel. That's just human nature. People crave what they can't have. The moment you become that elusive presence, something clicks in their mind. The person who was once always there, constantly checking in, just isn't around anymore. And instead of you feeling the void, it dawns on them. They're the ones longing now. This isn't about manipulation. It's about establishing a boundary that makes your happiness independent of anyone else. It's as funny how that works. The second they notice you're no longer hanging on their every word, they're drawn to your world like moths to a flame. Think about it. When you made yourself endlessly available, always initiating contact, you were essentially surrendering your power. You were broadcasting, I rely on you to feel good about myself. I need your approval to know I'm worthy. But when you stop doing that, when you make it clear you are content without their validation, it shifts everything. You're no longer pursuing them. You're pursuing your own ambitions, your own growth, your own sense of fulfillment. And that change, it's magnetic. It draws people in because, honestly, everyone is attracted to someone who's secure and self-assured. Now, here's the intriguing part. When you master the art of self-sufficiency, you're no longer emotionally dependent on others. You're not hanging on to every interaction, hoping for a confidence boost. Instead, you're building your own worth through your actions, your achievements, and your ability to flourish without the constant need for outside validation. And that's transformative. It's almost ironic. The moment you let go of needing them, they're the ones who suddenly feel incomplete. Why does that happen? Because they witness you thriving, content, and moving forward without them. And that realization makes them uneasy. They're confronted with just how much they took you for granted, now stuck on the sidelines, trying to comprehend how you're doing just fine on your own. Learning to be self-reliant also means protecting your emotional space. When you're no longer dependent on others to lift your spirits, you become more intentional about who you allow into your life. You set boundaries confidently because you're no longer afraid of losing those who don't value you. The best part? That sense of self-respect earns you even greater respect from others. You stop granting unrestricted access to everyone because you finally recognize your worth. And when your availability becomes limited, it forces people to reevaluate how much they genuinely value you. They start realizing just how much of your energy they were soaking up, and now that it's no longer there, they're yearning for it. They want to be involved in your life again, not because they're trying to control you, but because they've come to see that you're someone who knows how to thrive independently. One thing needs to be clear, though. Being self-sufficient doesn't mean isolating yourself. It's about resilience. It's about knowing that while you're fully capable of standing on your own, you're not shutting others out. You just don't need anyone to make you feel whole. That right there, that's real power. Ever notice that feeling when you walk into a room alone? And instead of feeling awkward or out of place, you just own it? That's the kind of confidence that doesn't shout for attention. It just quietly commands it. You don't rely on anyone else to feel valuable, and that energy, it's captivating. People sense it, even when you're not actively trying. It's the kind of natural self-assurance that leaves them wondering what changed, as if you're holding on to some hidden secret they're desperate to uncover. Start small. Take yourself out for a solo date. Maybe it's that restaurant you've been eyeing, or a long hike through the trails. Spend a day doing something purely for your own enjoyment. No audience, no pressure. Just you and your thoughts. Embrace your own company and get comfortable in your own presence. It's not about being alone, it's about thriving within that space. The more you find peace within yourself, the less you'll feel the need to seek validation from anyone else. And here's the twist. People will notice. That newfound sense of independence draws them in, and suddenly they can't help but want to be part of that vibe. Now, here's the real eye-opener. When they catch you thriving without needing anyone's approval, it's almost magnetic. You're not trying to prove a point, but you end up showing them that you're complete all on your own. And that kind of self-sufficiency, it's not just attractive, it's almost intoxicating to those who never saw it coming. Then there's the envy, the subtle, unspoken envy that sneaks in when your newfound confidence catches them off guard. Picture this. They're so used to seeing you doubt yourself, constantly seeking their approval or second-guessing your choices. Then one day you appear different, more solid, more grounded, like every move you make is purposeful and unapologetic. It's like striking them with a lightning bolt, leaving them stunned, wondering how they missed this transformation happening right in front of them. Think about it. You might have spent years as the one hesitating, always asking for opinions on every little thing, letting their perspective shape your own sense of worth. You gave them the script to your identity. But then, something just clicks. You take a step back, focus inward, and gradually rebuild from the inside out. Your confidence doesn't burst onto the scene. It grows quietly, as you start to trust your own instincts rather than leaning on theirs. And that's the thing about real confidence. It doesn't beg for attention or crave validation. It just exists. You're not out to prove them wrong or flaunt some dramatic transformation. You just wake up one day and realize that you don't need their approval to feel good about yourself. You make choices, you follow through, and you live life on your own terms. And suddenly, they're the ones feeling left out, wondering how they missed the shift from insecurity to quiet strength. This isn't just confidence, it's freedom. It's the power of being unapologetically yourself, without needing a single nod of approval. And when they finally notice, it's not just unexpected, it's downright shocking. Because now, the person who used to overthink and second-guess is out there living life unapologetically, without looking back for permission. And that's the plot twist they never saw coming. Confidence. It's infectious, but not in the way you'd expect. It spreads, yes, but not because everyone is rooting for your success. Sometimes it's the discomfort it brings that makes it so noticeable. Your newfound self-assurance can feel like a mirror, forcing people to confront their own insecurities. It stings, seeing a strength in you they hadn't noticed before, and worse, realizing they lack it themselves. That's when envy slips in. Not always the venomous kind, but envy all the same. They start to wish they could carry themselves like you. walking into any room with their head held high, completely at ease with who they are. Watching you do it throws them off balance because they've always seen you as someone who needed their input, their stamp of approval. Now, you're this person who just knows their worth, unapologetically independent, not waiting to be told how to feel. That kind of confidence, it's captivating. It draws people in, even if it makes them a little uneasy. They can't help but be intrigued, while quietly wondering how they missed this change in you. Here's the thing. When someone's used to holding power over you, whether it's in a relationship, friendship, or work setting, they grow accustomed to you seeking their validation. It boosts their own sense of security, knowing you rely on their guidance. But the moment you stop needing that, the entire dynamic flips. They're no longer in control, and that imbalance, it's deeply unsettling. This is the moment your confidence stops asking for respect and starts commanding it. It doesn't gently suggest you're worthy, it asserts it without question. You're no longer that person waiting for a nod of approval, and it shifts how others perceive you. Suddenly, they're forced to view you through a different lens, no longer as someone who's unsure or hesitant, but as someone solid, grounded, and undeniably confident. It dawns on them just how much they misjudged you. And here's the best part. It's not just about changing how they see you. It's about how you see yourself. You're done chasing approval to feel whole. You know who you are, and you're comfortable showing it. You take up space without apology, you speak your mind, and you make choices without second-guessing yourself. That kind of assurance. It's not just compelling, it's magnetic. People can't help but gravitate toward it because confidence, genuine confidence, doesn't need to shout or prove itself. It simply exists, steady and unshakable. And that quiet power? It's the most alluring thing of all. True confidence doesn't need to scream for attention or be the loudest voice in the room. It's not about dominating conversations or making grand gestures. Real confidence? It's quiet, steady, and unwavering. It's that deep inner assurance that you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. It's about entering any scenario fully aware of your worth without waiting for someone else to validate it. That kind of confidence is compelling, powerful enough to alter how others perceive you, but more importantly, it transforms how you perceive yourself. Here's something most people overlook. Confidence has nothing to do with being flawless. In reality, its strength comes from accepting your imperfections without letting them define your value. It's about recognizing that you're already enough, just as you are. You don't have to be a hero to everyone or shape yourself to meet every expectation. Once you internalize that truth, your entire mindset shifts. You're no longer running after approval because you've given yourself permission to feel worthy. But why does this make others so drawn to you? It's simple. Everyone longs for that unwavering confidence. When they see you standing firm, making choices without needing external validation, it sparks curiosity. They start to question, how did they become so self-assured? Why didn't I notice this before? That intrigue transforms into attraction, and suddenly your presence becomes magnetic, rooted and authentic. And here's where it gets even more interesting. When your confidence reaches that unshakable point, it forces people to confront their own insecurities. They can no longer cast their self-doubt onto you because you're not accepting it. You're done playing the role of someone who seeks approval. Instead, you're showing up unapologetically as yourself. That kind of self-assurance brings a sense of stability, and people are naturally drawn to that, craving it because it's rare and reassuring. So, how do you develop that kind of confidence? Start with small steps. Practice saying no without feeling guilty when something doesn't align with your values. Speak up when you'd usually hold back. Keep practicing until it becomes second nature. You'll notice how people's behavior around you changes, how the dynamics start to shift. They'll begin respecting your boundaries without you having to fight for it. Because when you move through life with quiet, undeniable confidence, the world has no choice but to take notice. True confidence doesn't mean being the loudest person in the room. It's about carrying yourself like you belong there, even when you're the quietest one around. Once you start recognizing your worth without waiting for others to validate it, everything changes. The people who once overlooked you can't help but notice the new, confident, fearless version of you, one they never saw coming. That's where the real power lies. Here's the kicker: unpredictability. It's one of the most underestimated strengths in any relationship. Most people have no idea just how captivating unpredictability can be. When someone thinks they know your every move, they start getting complacent. They assume they've figured you out completely, and because of that, they stop putting in the effort. You fade into the background of their routine because, in their minds, you've become predictable. So, flip the script. Stop being so easy to read, and watch how quickly people start paying attention. The moment they can't predict what you'll do next, they're hooked. That air of mystery, it's irresistible. Let me break it down for you. Picture this. You've always been the one reaching out first, setting up plans, texting back immediately. Over time, they got used to it. They knew exactly when you'd call, what you'd say, and how you'd react. In the beginning, it felt reassuring, even comforting. But soon enough, it became routine, predictable to the point of boredom. They didn't feel the need to put in the effort because your presence was a given. But then, something shifts. You're no longer so available. You don't jump to respond right away. You're not the one initiating every conversation. You're out living your life, doing your own thing, without making them the center of your universe. Suddenly, they're caught off guard. They can't help but wonder why you're not acting the same. That little spark of curiosity? It's powerful. They start questioning what changed, and why they're suddenly not your top priority. Here's a universal truth. People are naturally attracted to mystery. Our brains are wired to solve puzzles, to crack open enigmas. When you make yourself less predictable, you become that captivating mystery they can't ignore. They don't know what you're thinking or why you've changed your behavior, and that makes you infinitely more intriguing. The uncertainty keeps them guessing, and that curiosity, it's downright addictive. If someone knows every move you'll make, there's no excitement, no challenge. But when you break free from being predictable, when you add that element of surprise, you force them to pay attention. You make them crave your presence as they try to figure out what's going on. That's when the power dynamic flips, when they realize they've got to step up and meet your new standards. Quit being so predictable. Seriously. When you start doing the unexpected, it forces people to reassess how they see you. Suddenly, they're caught off guard, wondering why your responses aren't instant anymore, or why you're suddenly less accessible. Are you seeing someone new? Or maybe you're just too wrapped up in your own life to care the way you used to. These thoughts start bouncing around their mind, and that's when the dynamic flips. They're no longer sure about their place with you, and that doubt? It's irresistibly captivating. But let's get one thing straight. Being unpredictable isn't about playing mind games. It's not about holding back affection just to toy with their emotions. No, It's about living life with your own priorities in focus. You're not stepping back just to make them chase you. You're stepping up for yourself, choosing growth, happiness, and progress. Your unpredictability isn't some calculated strategy. It's the natural outcome of putting your own needs first. And here's the real punch. Ditching predictability actually creates value. Think about it. When you're always around, always initiating plans, they start assuming your presence is just a given. Always within arm's reach, ready whenever they want it. But when you step back, even a little, you create a gap. And in that gap, they realize your attention isn't something they can just count on. Suddenly, they're seeing you as someone worth earning. Someone whose presence isn't served on a silver platter like free samples at the mall. Here's a reality check. If you've always been the one making contact, planning every detail, they start relying on it. It becomes routine. But stop doing that, and watch them take notice. They'll quickly understand that coasting through isn't going to cut it anymore. If they want to stay in your world, they'll have to match your effort. That subtle transition from feeling secure to feeling uncertain, that's where unpredictability hits its stride. People are wired to crave what's not easily theirs. If you're always accessible, always predictable, they won't feel any urgency to put in effort. But the second you start prioritizing yourself, setting boundaries and living without constantly checking in on them, they'll feel the shift. Suddenly, they're strategizing ways to get back on your radar, craving that attention because it's no longer guaranteed. Just keep in mind, being unpredictable doesn't mean being unreliable or ghosting someone. It's not about disappearing without a word. It's about being so invested in your own life and goals that you naturally stop making them your focal point. When your focus is genuinely on bettering yourself, unpredictability becomes second nature. And that's when they'll realize your worth without you having to do a thing. Stop revolving your world around someone else. Seriously, it's time to find that sweet spot where you're still involved, but not so predictable anymore. You're out there, living your own life, chasing your ambitions, and not bending over backward just to fit into their schedule. Start small. Break one routine. If you're always the one to send the first text, pause. If you're constantly available at a specific time, get caught up in something else. Reclaim the value of your time by shedding the habit of being constantly accessible. Give them space to notice your absence. Let them wonder what's keeping you busy. That hint of mystery, when they can't predict your every move, creates a magnetic tension. Suddenly, you're on their mind way more than before. The real genius of unpredictability lies in how it flips the dynamic. When they can't easily figure you out or anticipate what's coming next, they start to miss your presence in ways they never expected. You're no longer just a reliable fixture. You're an intriguing enigma they can't quite grasp. And that makes you irresistibly captivating. Here's a tough pill to swallow. People rarely appreciate what they have until it's gone. It's not that they never cared. They just got way too comfortable. They got used to your constant presence, your unwavering effort, and the time and energy you freely gave. But the second you step back, creating a bit of distance, they're forced to face a reality they hadn't considered before. You offered more than they ever realized. At first, it might not even register. They'll probably just assume, "Oh, they're busy, they'll get back to me." They might convince themselves that things will eventually go back to normal because they're so accustomed to you always being the one to make an effort. But gradually, that perception shifts. they begin to notice the void left by your absence, the little things they took for granted, the conversations, the support, the spontaneous fun, the comforting presence you brought without a second thought. That's when the truth smacks them in the face. They didn't just lose something ordinary. What they lost was unique, irreplaceable. But by the time they realize that, you're already ahead, living your own life, moving forward without them. That's the power of becoming unpredictable and irreplaceable. Let them feel what it's like to lose you and see how quickly they grasp just how much you truly meant. They never saw it coming, did they? Losing you, the one who was always there, checking in, making plans, and showing up without fail, was the last thing they expected. They got comfortable, assuming your presence was a given, not something special. It never crossed their mind that one day you'd just stop being that constant figure in their life. But the moment you pulled back, reality hit them hard. Suddenly, they had to confront the truth. They'd been coasting on your effort without giving it a second thought. That realization, it stings. When you're no longer just a message away or the one who always makes time, it forces them to face what they've lost. It's like a punch to the gut when they finally recognize the support they took for granted, the effort you put in without expecting anything in return, and the joy you brought into their world. All of a sudden, it's painfully obvious. They find themselves replaying memories, laughing together, sharing deep conversations, all those little moments they treated as ordinary. And each memory digs the regret a little deeper. They had something valuable, and they were too blind to see it. It's almost ironic, isn't it? People get so used to someone being there that they stop appreciating it. They assume it'll never change. But when that constant presence is suddenly gone, it leaves a void, one that echoes with the realization of how much happiness you brought into their life. That guilt has a way of creeping in, settling into their thoughts, and gnawing at them with every passing day. Now they're second-guessing themselves, trying to figure out how they could have overlooked something so significant. It's uncomfortable. It's unsettling. They remember all the times they brushed off your effort or took your kindness as a given. And that regret doesn't just go away. It stays, clawing at their conscience and making them wish they'd done things differently. But here's the thing. You didn't do anything wrong by stepping back. It wasn't manipulation or some elaborate game to make them miss you. You simply decided that your own time and energy were worth more than being taken for granted. You chose to value yourself, and in doing so, you gave them the space to finally realize just how much you mattered. Now, as they're sitting there, feeling the weight of that loss, they're probably scrambling to figure out how to fix it. Funny how that works. Only when your absence leaves a void do they start craving what they once had. But the truth is, you're already moving on. You're not looking back or playing mind games. You're just done being someone's fallback. That's what reclaiming your worth looks like. Letting them feel the emptiness while you keep moving forward, unapologetically. It's their turn to deal with the regret, and you've got better things to focus on. If they ever try to come back, they'll realize it's too late. You've already moved on, stronger and wiser than before. Life isn't promised. It's a privilege. Picture it like this. Your time, energy, and love aren't just freebies handed out to anyone. They hold value. When you keep giving them to someone who doesn't truly appreciate it, you're practically rolling out the red carpet for them to take advantage. But the moment you pull back and reclaim that energy, you're sending a bold message. I know my worth, and if you can't recognize it, You don't deserve a place at my table. And let me tell you, nothing is more attractive than self-respect. People tend to snap out of their comfort zone the moment your presence vanishes. Suddenly, they're comparing the past with the present. And guess what? Life without you feels a whole lot emptier. It hits them hard, like an unexpected punch to the gut. They'd gotten so used to your support, your presence, your vibe, they never thought about what losing it would feel like. Now they're stuck reflecting on the good times, yearning for that connection, that warmth, that effortless happiness you used to bring. But here's the twist. They can't just reach out and have it all back. Nope. They need to earn that spot again. And you? You're not about to come running just because they're suddenly feeling lonely. Let them sit with that regret. Let them stew in the silence of your absence, questioning every decision that led to this point. If they manage to find their way back, they'll know it's not on their terms. It's on yours. And if they don't, that's their loss. You've already reclaimed your worth, and that's what truly counts. When someone finally realizes what they've let slip away, it's like getting hit by a wave of reality. They're forced to confront how much you truly meant, and that guilt doesn't just vanish. It clings to them like a stain they can't wash out. Don't feel obligated to comfort them or make them feel better. You've moved forward. You've grown. You've invested in yourself instead of pouring energy into people who never understood your value. And that's the thing about growth. It's magnetic. You start to evolve, thrive, pick up new hobbies, advance in your career, and surround yourself with people who genuinely appreciate you. The change is visible, not just to you, but to everyone around. And wouldn't you know it, those who once took you for granted can't help but notice too. They're left standing on the sidelines, feeling left out, regretting not holding on tighter when they had the chance. Funny how the game changes, right? When you were always there, always putting them first, they grew complacent. They didn't feel the need to put in any effort because they knew you'd always be there. But now, the tables have turned. You're no longer their safety net. You're the one they regret losing, scrambling to catch up while you keep moving forward. It's almost ironic how they never saw it coming. But deep down, you did. You knew your own value, and now they're left picking up the pieces, trying to figure out how to deal with the consequences of their choices. Let them chase. Let them wonder. Let them feel the full weight of losing you while you build a life so fulfilling they can't help but regret taking you for granted. Isn't it ironic? The moment you stop hanging around, waiting for someone's validation, and start living life on your own terms, they suddenly notice. The very person who never put in the effort now finds themselves glancing back, realizing you're out there making progress, setting goals, and thriving without them. It's almost like a plot twist they never saw coming. But here's the thing. They never do. Here's the reality. Self-improvement is magnetic. When you're genuinely committed to becoming a better version of yourself, whether it's through your career, health, relationships, or mindset, it creates this undeniable presence. It's confidence, ambition, and progress wrapped up in one powerful energy. And that energy, it's impossible to ignore. They catch a glimpse of you exuding success and think, wait a minute, when did they become so unstoppable? That's the kicker. Your journey keeps moving forward, with or without them, and it hits them hard. They're suddenly struck by the realization that they might get left behind. You're chasing something greater, and they're scrambling to catch up because they know it's not just about slipping back into your life, It's about proving they're worthy of being part of it again. You've changed the game entirely. You've raised your standards, drawn your lines, and made it crystal clear. You're not interested in revisiting the old dynamic. If they want a place in your life now, they'll have to put in the work. No more letting them sit back while you do all the heavy lifting. And that's when reality smacks them in the face. They see you thriving, evolving, pushing boundaries, and suddenly they're left questioning their own life choices. It's almost like they're looking in a mirror, wondering why they're stuck on repeat while you're out there making waves. The thought creeps in. How did I overlook this? Why am I still stagnant? It's a harsh wake-up call, realizing they've been stagnant while you've been evolving. Now there's fear settling in. A fear that someone else might recognize your worth before they do. They dread the idea of losing you to someone who genuinely values your journey. That fear? It's real. It's intense. It gnaws at them because they're painfully aware they missed their chance. But here's the thing. You're not pausing your progress for anyone. You're moving ahead, fiercely and unapologetically. You're not living to gain approval from those who never saw your potential in the first place. And that's exactly what fuels their desperation to come back. They understand that they'll have to earn their spot in your life because you've outgrown their old expectations. And that's the bottom line. You're not slowing down, waiting, or offering any free passes to those who didn't see your value before. Your momentum is too strong to risk losing it just because someone finally realized you're worth it. Let them sit with that regret while you continue to soar higher. Sometimes, people who can't keep up with your growth just naturally fade away. And that's honestly a blessing. Why waste your energy dragging along those who can't support your evolution or refuse to rise with you? Let them fall behind. The right ones, the people who genuinely value you and see your worth, they'll rise to meet you. They'll want to be part of your story, not because they're holding you back, but because they recognize the amazing future you're creating and want to support you on that journey. Here's the thing. Don't strive for growth just to prove something to others. Do it because you deserve a life that fuels your passion and lights you up. Whether it's picking up a new hobby, chasing after a dream project, or simply working on being the best version of yourself, make it about you. Trust me, those who truly belong will be drawn to your energy naturally. And the ones who took you for granted, they'll feel the burn of realizing they missed out on your transformation. When you carve out your own path, it's not just about bettering your life. It's about setting the standard that your time and energy aren't free for the taking. You're making it clear that you're not going to wait around for anyone to catch up. If they want to be part of your journey now, they've got to earn that spot. That confidence? It's magnetic. It pulls people back, not just to be near you, but to be part of the exciting, ever-evolving chapter you're writing. And here's where it gets intense. Fear. It's one of the most potent motivators there is. The second they realize they might lose you to someone else, panic kicks in. It suddenly becomes clear that your absence creates space for someone new, someone who will value you in ways they never did. That thought alone is enough to jolt them awake. Imagine it. At first, they might brush off your glow-up, thinking it's just a phase. But as time passes, they can't ignore it. You're not just getting by, you're thriving. You're not looking back. That's when reality sets in. This isn't some temporary boost. It's a full-blown transformation. Now they're stuck in a scramble, haunted by the idea that someone else might see your worth before they get the chance to make it right. That fear of losing you? It's brutal. It's like a gut punch that lingers. When they realize you're not just moving on, but moving up, they can't help but feel the urgency. That's how human nature works. The fear of missing out on something truly rare and valuable. Meanwhile, you're just out here living your life, calm, collected, and completely unfazed, while they're stuck regretting how they let something priceless slip through their fingers. When you start distancing yourself, something unexpected unfolds. They begin to notice. Suddenly, it dawns on them that you're changing, growing stronger, more confident, evolving into a new version of yourself. And just like that, it hits them hard. Someone else is bound to recognize what they foolishly overlooked. Someone new will see the remarkable person you've become, and they might not get another chance. Here's the raw, uncomfortable truth. People can't stand the thought of being replaced. It's terrifying, especially when they see you flourishing, happier, more self-assured, and thriving on your own. Their minds race with questions like, what if somebody else steps in and values them the way I never did? What if they're treated better than I ever managed to do? That fear doesn't just show up. It digs its claws in and doesn't let go. They start picturing you with someone new, someone who treasures you without hesitation, and that single thought sends them spiraling out of control. This fear of losing you goes even deeper, into regret. It gnaws at them like a stubborn itch, forcing them to replay memories on a loop. They're haunted by the realization that they didn't value you when they had the chance, and now the possibility of losing you for good lingers like a dark cloud. It's not just a passing feeling, it's a weight that settles in, and then they make the worst move possible. They start comparing themselves to this imagined new person who could walk into your life and give you everything they never could. It's gut-wrenching, but it's human nature at its most vulnerable. But let's get one thing straight. It's not just jealousy at play. It's the crushing awareness that the safety net they once had, your consistent presence, is no longer a given. That sense of security is gone. They're now confronting the harsh reality that someone else might step up and take their place. That fear? It's like a slap in the face, a rude awakening. It forces them to examine their actions and wonder, why didn't I value them more? Why did I take them for granted? What could I have done differently to keep them? That fear isn't just an anxious flutter. It's a powerful motivator, pushing them to reflect on their choices and face the hard truth. They messed up. Sometimes it even sparks genuine change. But make no mistake, you're not playing games to make anyone jealous. You're pulling away because you're focused on yourself, your growth, and your happiness. Their fear of losing you? It's just a natural consequence of finally realizing that you're not waiting around to be treated like an afterthought. The irony of it all? The very moment they watch you moving forward without them is the moment it sinks in. They messed up big time. Now they're left sitting with that uncomfortable realization, the gut-wrenching fear of being replaced, because they took you for granted when they had the chance. They underestimated your worth, dismissed your value, and now it's finally sinking in. The realization is like a slap in the face. They're on the brink of losing something priceless. But don't let that sudden panic sway your path. Keep moving forward. Keep thriving. Don't let their epiphany hold you back. Your growth is about you, never about them. Surround yourself with those who recognize your value from the start, not just when they're desperate to hold on. Sure, the fear of losing you might jolt them into changing, but that's not your responsibility. If they decide to step up, it needs to be on your terms, not because they're afraid of being replaced, but because they genuinely want to be a part of your life. And if they can't manage that, too bad. You're already heading towards something greater, and someone who truly sees your worth will gladly walk beside you. Let's make one thing crystal clear. Putting distance between you and them isn't about playing mind games or stirring jealousy. It's about reclaiming your power and valuing your time. Remember, Stoicism teaches us that the only thing we can genuinely control is ourselves. So when you pull back from someone who couldn't appreciate you, you're not just sending them a message. You're reinforcing to yourself that your worth doesn't depend on their acknowledgement. The irony is undeniable. The more you focus on yourself, getting stronger, wiser, and more independent, the harder it becomes for them to ignore your glow. It's like gravity. They're drawn in, unable to resist watching you thrive without them. But here's the twist. You don't actually need them to return. You've already claimed victory by prioritizing your own growth. Whether they find their way back or not is irrelevant. You're moving on, more resilient and self-assured than ever. So, keep building, keep evolving, and keep becoming the person they'll forever regret letting slip away. In the end, your journey is yours alone. It's never about proving your worth to anyone else.